The person or the auditor who is having a direct interest, that is direct financial interest in the company, cannot become an auditor. The person who examines or verifies the books of account of a company is called as company auditor. So what the instruction which is given by the management in relation to audit, so it has to be noted down in that book. The voucher is just like a paper, so it does not act as a voucher, so it should be properly authorized by a person. Hello everyone, I am Arshita, lecturer, Department of Commerce, Vidyashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysore. My dear students, today I am going to discuss about revision 2 of the subject Principles and Practice of Auditing, and this is for 6th SEM BCom students. So in our revision 1, we have discussed about unit 1. In today's revision, that is in revision 2, we are going to discuss about unit 2 to unit 6. So in our first revision, so we have discussed about your first unit, that is Introduction to Auditing. So today we are going to discuss about unit 2 to 6. Now we shall begin the session. So let us see a new topic, that is audit program. Now what is this audit program? So we have already discussed about this audit program. Now we shall revise that what is this audit program is all about. So what is audit program? So overall program of an organization is called as audit program. So here, before conducting a audit activity or auditing, so what the auditor has to do, he has to prepare a proper program, that is overall audit program, in order to ensure that his activity is conducted very easily as well as very smoothly. Now let us see what is the meaning of audit program. An audit program is an essential preliminary to all type of organization. So one who goes for an audit process, so this audit program is very essential. So before commencing an audit work, now when this audit program is being conducted, before commencement of audit work. Now what is audit program is all about? It contains who has to do what type of work, and a proper division of work will be done in this audit program. In the sense, deciding in advance what type of activity they have to conduct in the audit process. So that whole program of this whole activity of auditing is called as audit program, and this is conducted before the commencement of audit work. An auditor generally pre-plans. So here, before the commencement of an audit work, so what the auditor will do? So he will pre-plan the activity what he is going to conduct in an organization. So here auditing is not a simple task, right? So it requires huge amount of information, at the same time huge amount of knowledge also. So before or without a proper plan, it is difficult for an auditor to go for directly audit the organization's books of account. So before the commencement of audit work, it is a duty of an auditor to pre-plan the activities, that is what is going to conduct and who has to do the work, and what is the, and there should be a proper division of work also. So that is overall picture is called as what? Audit program. The audit program is drawn up by every individual audit because no two audits the work is identical in nature. Of course, for each and every type of activities, so this audit program has to be drafted, because one organization is different or totally different from other organization. In the same way, the auditing of one organization will be totally different from that of another organization. So it is a duty of an auditor. So whether it is any type of organization. So if an auditor goes for this auditing work, so he has to make sure that he has drafted this audit program. So what you have to remember here, audit program is nothing but the plan which is conducted by an auditor before the commencement of audit work, and audit program differs from one organization to another organization and from one auditor to another auditor. So this is about audit program. Now let us see what are the advantages of audit program. So if you see the first advantage, audit work can be started immediately. So as I told you, they have already planned what the work they have to conduct. So here the work will be started immediately. So here there will be no delay in work. So the work will be started immediately. Audit program ensures nothing is omitted. So because in that program they have already decided what type of work they have to conduct and who has to do the work. In the sense, there will be proper division of work. So there will be proper division of work. So it leads that no work is being left out in order to conduct. Next, it provides guidelines. Of course, it provides guidelines for the audit staff. So this audit program will be given to whom? Will be given to each and every audit staff. So that audit staff will be aware of what type of work they have to conduct. So here the auditor need not go again and again and give the guidelines. So if they give the audit program to each and every audit staff, so it will be easy for them to refer that audit program. Next, as the audit program gives clear and detailed instruction to the audit staff in advance. So this we have already discussed. So it gives detailed information in advance. It facilitates proper distribution of work. Of course, in audit program, they will distribute the work to each and every audit staff. So thereby it leads to proper distribution of work. It facilitates the conduct of audit work by several audit assistants simultaneously. Since the division of work is done, so it leads to simultaneously, or it will lead to do the audit work simultaneously. Here the audit staff need not wait for another audit staff, so he can go on doing his work continuously. It fixes up responsibility. Of course, so this audit program fixes up responsibility on each and every audit staff. As I told you, this audit program divides the work among the audit staff. So the work which is being divided among the audit staff, so here each and every audit staff is responsible for the work to be conducted in an organization. For example, if certain work is given to our audit staff, then it is a duty of that staff to complete that work. So if any mistake is made in that particular work, then that particular staff is responsible. And the next one is, it helps the auditor to watch the progress. Of course, through this division of work, it helps the auditor to know the progress of the audit staff. So how the audit staff are working in an organization towards this auditing process. So it helps to identify the progress of audit staff. Next is, it helps the auditor to exercise effective control. So there will be control in the hands of auditor. Since the auditor have prepared the audit program and it has been distributed to the audit staff, so here the auditor will have whole control over the staff. Next, it facilitates continuity. Of course, since audit program is decided in advance, it leads to continuity in audit work. Next, if you see the disadvantages of audit program, audit program makes audit assistants specialized in only their respective work. Now, so this is a disadvantage. For example, there is a skilled worker who want to do variety of work. But in this audit program, they will decide in advance what type of work they have to conduct. So it leads, or it is a limitations for the creative audit staff, because other than that, what is mentioned in the audit program, he cannot do any other type of work. So whatever mentioned in the audit program, same work has to be done by the audit staff in simultaneously in nature. So it leads to decrease in efficiency of the worker. As a result, they cannot be assigned with any other work. Next is, audit program makes the work of the audit staff stereotype as well as mechanical. Of course, this is also one of the limitation, because so if the worker is doing particular type of work on a continuous basis, so it leads to mechanical, in the sense like a machine the audit staff is working, because they are doing the same type of work, and stereotype as well as mechanical. Audit program discourages the initiative and interest of the efficient audit staff. So I have already told you, so here there will be a efficient staff who want to do creative type of work, but it discourages, or the audit program discourages such type of creative staff where they have to do similar type of work on a simultaneously, or they have to do the work simultaneously in a mechanical or stereotype. So it discourages the creative workers. And the next limitation is that, so if you see the inefficient as well as negligent staff, so they may tell that the audit program was not correct, so they could not do the work properly. So they can blame on the audit program. Because they are lazy, they cannot do the work properly, but instead of doing their work or improving themselves, they can blame that audit program was not correct, because since it is decided in advance. As an audit program fixes a time limit, of course, the time duration within which the audit work has to be conducted will be mentioned in the audit program. So this may lead to hurry up of activities, hurry up of auditing activity, which may decrease the inefficiency of audit work. And the next one is even a well-prepared audit program. So even a well-prepared audit program may become waste or become in vain in the organization. So we can't predict the future, right? So we have decided this audit program in advance, but coming to the reality, there may be a changes in the activities to be undertaken. So in that situation, so this early made audit program will be a waste. So we cannot tell that each and every program or each and every audit program will lead to success. So there may be a certain changes we have to make in such situation. This audit program, it is very difficult to change the audit program, because since it is decided in advance and each and every one have to follow that audit program. And when there is an audit program, the auditor work has to be detailed as well as systematic. So here there will be a pressure on the audit staff, because they have to do the work as it is mentioned in the audit program, and this is a drawback for the audit staff. So these are the disadvantages of audit program. So we have discussed about what is the meaning of audit program, what are its advantages as well as disadvantages, and it is also a very important question from the examination point of view. Now, if you see the next topic, it is qualification of an auditor. So, you know about auditor, right? The person who examines or verifies the books of account is called as an auditor. So, of course, he needs some qualification. Let us say what is a qualification which is required by an auditor to undertake the company audit. So, if you take a company, so what are the qualifications which is required by an auditor? So according to section 14(1) of the Companies Act 2013. So let us see, so what is the qualification of an company auditor? So we have already discussed here. So according to Companies Act 2013, a company auditor should be a chartered accountant who is having a certificate from the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India. So he should have a certificate, that is practice certificate under the Chartered Accountant Act of 1949. In the sense, he should be certified by this act, then only he can become a chartered accountant, or then only he become a auditor of a company. Now, who can be an auditor? Now, what is the qualification of an auditor? An auditor or a company auditor should be a chartered accountant who is having a certificate from Chartered Accountant Act of 1949. So, he should be certified by this act, then only he can become a company auditor. So, my dear students, of course, he is going to examine the books of accounts of a company. So, think about his qualification. So, he should have a thorough knowledge of each and every aspects of accounting. So, how an accountant maintains a books of account. So, how he requires a particular knowledge about accounts. At the same time, here the auditor should have that knowledge about accounting, because he is going to examine that books of accounts. Then after examining, he has to give the opinion, right? So when he wants to give the opinion, of course, he should have a proper knowledge of accounting. Then only he can become a auditor of a company. So he should be a certified chartered accountant or under the practice of Chartered Accountant Act of 1949. Hope you are clear with the qualifications of an auditor. Now, let us see what are the disqualifications of an auditor. So, according to Companies Amendment Bill 2003, let us see what are the disqualifications of an auditor. So, if you see the first one, an auditor who has a direct financial interest in the company. Now, the person or the auditor who is having a direct interest, that is direct financial interest in the company, cannot become a auditor. For example, if a person have provided credit to the organization, in such cases, he cannot become a auditor of the company. So there should not be any contact with the organization or the company. So he should not have any direct financial interest with the company. And the next one is an auditor who received only loan or guarantee from or on behalf of the company. For example, if a person who have received loan or on behalf of the company cannot become an auditor of the company. In the sense, there should not be any relation with the company as well as the auditor. Here the auditor should be an independent person. He should be an independent as well as qualified person. And the next one is the auditor who has any business relationship with the company. So not only relating to loan or not only relating to the financial basis. So here also there should not be any relation in respect of business also. So there should not be any undertaking of business from company as well as the auditor. So there should not be any business relationship in the company. And the next one is the auditor who has been employed in the company. So the employee itself, so the company's employee itself cannot become the auditor. So here for a company, an external auditor is required. He should be an independent as well as qualified person. Now, a person who is an employee of a company cannot become an auditor. Next is an auditor whose relative is in the employment of the company. Not only himself, so his relative also should not be there in the company. So if the relative is there, so there will be transfer of financial information, right? That is direct financial information to the auditor. So even the relative of an auditor should not also be the auditor of the company. And the next one is company auditor. Let us see what are the rights and duties of a company auditor. So we have already discussed about company auditor. That is the person who examines or verifies the books of account of a company is called as company auditor. And we have already discussed about what are his qualifications as well as disqualifications. Now let us see what are the rights and powers a company auditor should have. So if you see the first one, right to access the books of accounts as well as vouchers. Of course, it is a duty of a company auditor to verify the books of account with respect to vouchers also. Now, what do you mean by vouchers? The documentary evidence in support of a transaction is called as voucher. So, you know, for each and every transaction, there should be a proper voucher, right? There should be a proper documentary evidence. So, here, it is a right of an auditor. So, if an auditor goes for a company audit, it is a right of an auditor to verify the books of accounts along with the respective vouchers. And the next one is right to obtain information as well as explanation. Suppose if the auditor has any clarification, in such cases, he has a right to take information as well as he has a right to give the clarifications also. Next, right to obtain information and explanations. So here also, along with the clarification, he has a right to give the explanation or ask explanation from the organization. Right to visit the branches. Suppose if there is a big organization, so it will have various branches, right? So here the duty of an auditor, so he can go and visit that branches also. And the next one is right to receive notice and other communications of general meeting. Of course, company in the sense there will be a general meeting. So it is a duty of an auditor or it is a right of an auditor to receive the notice as well as to attend the general meeting. That is other communications of general meeting. Next one is right to attend the general meetings of the shareholders. Now here the auditor cannot enter or cannot attend the general meeting of board of directors. He has a right to attend the general meeting of shareholders. And the next one is right to speak at the general meeting. Suppose if the auditor has any clarification or if he want to tell anything, so he can speak or he has a right to speak in the general meeting. Next, right to seek legal, technical as well as expert advice. Of course, for an auditor, organization is very new. So, it is a duty or it is a right of an auditor to ask this technical, legal as well as any other information. And the next one is right to sign the audit reports. Of course, it is a right of an auditor to sign the audit report which is prepared by him. So here, after examining the books of account, he will prepare a report which is known as audit report. Now, it is a right of an auditor to sign that audit report. Right to report to the members of the company. So he has a right to report that audit report to the members of the company. Next, right to be indemnified. And the next one is right to receive remuneration. Now here the auditor will not work for free of cost. So for that, for the examining or for this auditing process, he has to receive remuneration from the organization or company. So these are the rights and powers of a company auditor. Now let us see what are the duties and responsibilities of a company auditor. So the first one is right to report. Of course, he has to report to the members of the company. So here after preparing the audit report, he has to give to the members of the company. Next, duty to make certain enquiries. So here if he want any clarification or if he want any explanation, he can go through enquiries also. Next, duty to comply with the directives of central government. So he has to follow the rules and regulations of central government. Since he is a qualified chartered accountant, so he has to comply with the directives of central government. Next, duty to sign his audit report. So we have already discussed about it. So it is both right as well as the duty of an auditor to sign the audit report. Next, every auditor should comply with auditing standards. So there are certain standards to be followed by an auditor. So it is the duty of an auditor to follow that auditing standards. Next, duty to assist investigators or inspectors. Suppose if there is any physical verification or if he requires any clarification or if he want to investigate any of the assets or if we want to investigate any of the books of account, in such cases it is a duty of an auditor to assist investigators or inspectors. Next is duties imposed by legal or court decisions. So here whatever the decisions which is given by the court or legal authority, so it is a duty of an auditor to follow that decisions. Next one is duty arising out of professional etiquette. So he should be loyal to his profession. So he should not be biased to organization. At the same time, he should not be biased to his work. He should be professional or he should work through his professional. So he should be favored to his profession. Next, we shall see about audit planning. It is also one of the important topic. So we have learned about audit program. I have already told you audit program is nothing but the program which is conducted before the commencement of audit work. That is what type of work they have to do, and there will be proper division of work. Who has to do the work? So each and everything, the whole program is called as audit program. Now what do you mean by audit planning? So you know for each and every activities planning is very important. So what do you mean by planning? Planning is nothing but deciding in advance what to do, when to do, how to do and who has to do it. So here also before an auditor goes for auditing work, so he has to plan in advance. So that is known as what? Audit planning. Now let us see why audit planning is needed, particularly for the following purpose. Why this audit planning is required. That is to give appropriate attention to the important areas of audit. For example, upon certain areas they have to do the auditing, and here the auditor has to know on which area he has to give more importance. For this, audit planning is very essential. Next, to identify promptly potential problems. So which problem has to be solved? So what is the main problem? So that problem has to be given more importance. So here through this audit planning, it will identify which problem has to be solved or for which problem they have to give the more importance. And the next one is to complete the work expeditiously. So here as expected, so if they want to do the work as expected, then a proper plan has to be made. So if there is no proper plan and if they directly go for auditing process, it will be difficult for an auditor. So in order to make the plan properly or in order to conduct the work properly, there should be a proper plan. Next, to utilize the assistants properly. Of course, there are a number of staff who is working behind an auditor. So, in order to make best utilization of those assistants, so this planning is required. And the next one is to coordinate the work done by auditor as well as experts. So of course, in certain cases, auditor requires experts also, because auditor is not specialized in each and every area. In such a situation, he can consult the experts and do the work. So there should be a proper coordination. So here the auditor has to decide in advance in which area experts is required and how they have to be, or how they are being called, and how to conduct the work from them. So each and everything has to be decided in advance. So if they decide in advance, of course there will be a proper coordination between the auditor as well as expert. So this is the need of audit planning. Now we shall see audit plan should identically commence at the conclusion of previous year's audit. Of course, after commencement of previous year audit, then only the current year audit planning will be made. In planning this audit, the auditor should consider the following factors. Let us see what are the factors that has to be considered by an auditor. The complexity of the audit, that is, to what extent the audit is complex. So depending upon that, the plan has to be made. The environment in which the client operates. So it depends upon the environment in which the client operates or the type of business. So here I have told you audit differs from one type of organization to another type of organization. So depending upon that, this audit planning has to be made. Next, his previous experience with the client. Of course, if the auditor have done the work in the previous year, then there will be an experience with the auditor. So depending upon the experience with the previous client, so on the basis of that, the audit program has to be made. Next, knowledge of the client business. Of course, before making an audit planning, so here the auditor should have a thorough knowledge about the client's business. So after having the thorough knowledge, then only the auditor will agree for the auditing work. So these are the important points that has to be considered while drafting a audit planning. Now let us see what is this audit notebook. So it is a notebook where important points while doing the audit work, so if there is any important points, that will be noted in a particular book which is called as audit notebook. Now this audit notebook is prepared by whom? By the audit staff. So here I have told you the auditor will divide the work to the audit staff. Now the audit staff will start conducting the work. So during the process of work, so if he finds any important points, so that point will be recorded in a particular book which is called as audit notebook. Now let us see how to maintain an audit notebook. A separate audit notebook is maintained for each concern for each year. So here the audit staff has to maintain notebook for each organization. So here notebook is different from one organization to another organization. Of course, the type of activity which is conducted in the audit process will be differ from one type of organization to another type, right? In such a situation, here also the audit staff have to maintain different type of notebook from one concern to another concern. So it may be in the form of bound register or loose sheets filed together. So this audit notebook can be a bound register or loose sheets. Whether the audit notebook is maintained in the form of bound book or loose sheets, it is a part of permanent record in the audit office. Of course, I have told you in audit notebook, they are going to record the important points relating to this audit process. So it may be in the form of bound register or loose sheets, but it has to be preserved carefully in the audit office. So it always acts as a evidence. Now let us see what are the contents of audit notebook. So the first one is nature of the business. So here the audit staff has to record what type of business it is, whether it is a manufacturing business or trading business. Next, organization structure of the enterprise. Of course, this audit notebook should contain organization structure of the enterprise. Next, name of principal officers, their powers, duties as well as responsibilities. So it should contain the principal officers, that is name of the principal officers, their duties, responsibilities as well as powers. Instruction from the management regarding the audit. So what the instruction which is given by the management in relation to audit, so it has to be noted down in that book. List of books of account maintained by the business. So which are the books that has been maintained in the business? So that list has to be recorded. The system of internal check and internal audit in force of the business. So whether the business have undertaken internal check as well as internal audit. The system of accounting followed in the business. So what type of accounting system the organization is following? So that also has to be recorded in the audit notebook. Next, technical details and terms used in the business. Relating to the technical details. So as I told you, being an auditor, he should have a knowledge about technical details. So here in the audit notebook, so they have to record what are the technical details of the organization. Next, extracts from the minutes as well as contracts. So if there is any meeting, so what are the main points they have discussed? So it has to be noted in that audit notebook, that is in relation to auditing. Next, provision from memorandum as well as articles of association. So you know, these are the two important documents which are the memorandum of association and articles of association. So what are the provisions which are included in that two documents? So that also should be recorded in the audit notebook. Now we shall go through a new topic, that is internal check. So what do you mean by internal check? It is an arrangement of the accounting work under which the work of one person comes under the work of other person. So here internal check is nothing but inside the organization, staffs will be appointed in order to check the books of account, where the control of one person will be in the hands of some other person. Now a person will be appointed, under him many persons will be working. So their work is that they have to verify the books of account. So under the security of another person, so that it is not possible to commit fraud without collusion between two or more persons. So in order to reduce the fraud, this system is introduced, that is internal check. So what do you mean by internal check? The control of one person will be in the hands of some other person. Now let us see internal check as regards to sales. So we have already discussed previously. So how this internal check is being conducted with regards to sales. So you know, sales are common in an organization, right? In the same way, purchases are also common in an organization. Now in relation to sales, how this internal check is being conducted? That is, the control of one person will be in the hands of some other person. So here it has been conducted in three ways, that is sales at counter. So here each and every counter will be assigned by one single staff, and that staff will be responsible for the sales which is made by him. Clear? So here that is about sales at counter. So we have already discussed in detail. And the next one is postal sales. So sales can also take place in the form of postal or mail orders. So how this internal check has to be done with regards to postal sales. Next, sales by representatives as well as agents. So there are situations where sales are made through this representatives as well as agents. So how careful the organization should be with regards to sales, because there may be misappropriation of cash, misappropriation of goods also. In such situation, in order to reduce the fraud as well as errors, so this initiative is taken, that is internal check as regards to sales. Next, objectives of internal check. Let us see what are the objectives of internal check. So there will be proper division of work, because they have already decided in advance. So there will be proper division of work. Next, minimization of errors and frauds. Of course, the main intention of internal check is to minimize the errors as well as frauds. Next, easy detection of errors and frauds. So through this internal check, since the control will be in the hands of some other person, so each and every activity will be in the hands of, or there will be control, right? So this easy detection, so if any errors as well as fraud which is made in an organization, so it can be easily detected. Next, ensure the reliability of the accounts. Of course, the accounts which they are going to prepare without any errors as well as frauds. So it will be more reliable as well as accurate. Next, easy preparation of final accounts. Of course, if the internal check is done, it helps to reduce the errors as well as frauds. Thereby, the financial statement will be correct and it leads to easy preparation of financial statements. Next, specification of the external auditor's work. So through this internal check, so it leads to specification of external auditor's work also. Now let us see the next topic, that is ouching. So what do you mean by ouching? So my dear students, you know, in books of account, so whenever they record a particular transaction, it should have a proper documentary evidence, without which they cannot record the transaction in the books of account. In the sense, for each and every transaction in the books of account, there should be a supporting documents, then only they can record in the books of account. So here what do you mean by ouching? Ouching is the act of checking or examining the entries made in the books of account with the supporting documentary evidence. Now here the work of an accountant is that, so he will record the transaction with respect to a particular voucher. Now what is the duty of an auditor? So he should see through that whether each and every transaction has a supporting documents or not. That is, he is going to compare the transaction with that of respective vouchers. So that process is called as ouching. So ouching also plays a very important role, because without a supporting documents, so it leads to fraud as well as errors. So in order to reduce that, ouching activity is conducted. Now let us see what are the importance of ouching. So the success of audit largely depends upon the care and attention with which ouching is accomplished. So here, in order to see the accuracy of books of account, so each and every document or each and every transaction should have a supporting document. So it should be done with utmost care as well as with utmost patience. Ouching is most potent tool in the hands of an auditor to ascertain the accuracy. Of course, the main intention is to check the accuracy of the transaction in the books of accounts. Next is to see that all transactions connected with the business have been recorded. Of course, as I told you, for each and every transaction, there should be a supporting voucher. And the auditor has to make sure that that voucher belongs to business itself. So, if we take some other's business and record the transaction, so it is a fake transaction, right? So, here the auditor has to see through that the transaction belongs to business only. Next, to ensure that no transaction which are not connected with the business have been recorded. That is, no transactions. So, no transactions has to be recorded which is not supported by a documentary evidence. Next is detection of errors as well as frauds. Of course, the main intention I have told you, in order to detect the error as well as frauds. Ouching ensures the arithmetical accuracy of the books of account. That is, in order to check the arithmetical accuracy. So, if each and every transaction has a supporting document, it means what? The books of account is correct. So, in order to check the arithmetical accuracy. If ouching is done with care and caution, the auditor can smoothly proceed with further in his work. So, if ouching is done properly, then other activities of an auditor will become very easy. Next, let us see what are the points to be considered in ouching. So, arrange vouchers. So, here how the transaction has been recorded, in the same way the vouchers has to be recorded in that manner only. So, if it is recorded in the serial number 1 to 100, then the vouchers has to be arranged from 1 to 100. Next, checking of date. Of course, they have to check the date. So, whether it belongs to current financial year or that of previous financial year. Suppose the auditing is conducted in current financial year, then all the transactions should be related to current year itself. Next, compare the words and figures. Of course, in the vouchers, they will write the amount. So, here the auditor has to clearly check whatever they have written in the words will match with the numbers. Checking of authority. So, whether that voucher has been authorized properly by a authorized person or not. So, if the voucher is just like a paper, so it does not act as a voucher, so it should be properly authorized by a person. Next, cutting or change. So, if any changes which is made in the voucher, in that situation, the auditor can go for explanation with the organization. That is, if any scratch or if any erase have done in the voucher, in such cases, the auditor can go for clarification. Transaction must relate to business. Of course, we know since we are auditing the business, that is transaction of business, then the transaction must relate to business itself. Case of personal vouchers. So, if there is any personal vouchers of an employee or of an auditor or if any other persons of the organization, staff in such situations, so this voucher does not act as a evidence because staff is different, employee is different, proprietor is different and the management is different. Next, checking of account head. So whether the account has been properly given a account head. So that the auditor has to check. Next, case of account head, that is, so in that account head, whether the transactions have been recorded properly or not. Next, complete or important note. So if there is any clarification or if there is any confusion, so here the voucher should contain a note. So the auditor has to see through all the points in vouching process. Next, we shall see teaming and lading. Now, what do I mean by teaming and lading? It is a fraudulent activity in relation to a misappropriation of cash. So, here it is a fraudulent activity in relation to misappropriation of cash. So, for this I will give an example. Suppose A is a customer. A is a customer who has given rupees 3,000 to the organization. Now, what the accountant will do or the person who maintains the books of account, so he will use this amount for his personal use, and suppose B has given same amount, that is rupees 3,000. In such situation, this A's account will be credited with the amount which is received from B. In the same way, now B's account is empty, right? Now, suppose C has given rupees 3,000. In such situation, C's amount will be credited in B's account. In the same way, the cashier or the person who maintains the books of account goes on cheating the organization or he goes on committing fraud in the organization, which is known as teaming and lading. So, what do you mean by teaming and lading? It is a fraudulent activity in relation to misappropriation of cash, where a person or a customer or a organization have received some amount from the customer A. So, that amount will be misused by the cashier and A's account will be credited by some other person, that is B, who has given the same amount. Now, here B's amount will be credited in A's account and B's account is empty now. In the same way, after few days, if C has given the amount, so C's amount will be credited in B. Here, this fraudulent activity will go on or continue like that. So, that is known as what? Teaming and lading. Now, how to detect this teaming and lading? So, ordinarily, teaming and lading or lapping may amount to fraud. So, it is a fraudulent activity of misappropriation of cash. Suppose if the cashier have recovered that amount or he has put that amount back to the organization before the commencement of this auditing work, then it is not considered as a fraud because at the end the balance will be same. Suppose he has misused that amount. Suppose if you think about a big amount, for example 20 lakh or 30 lakh, in such situation, so this activity is considered as a fraudulent activity. Hope you are clear with teaming and lading. So, what you have to remember here, it is a fraudulent activity in relation to misappropriation of cash by an accountant or by a cashier of the organization. Next, we shall see what is the difference between internal check, internal audit as well as internal control. So, if you see internal control, the first difference is that it is a whole system of control established by the management. That is, whole system of control inside the organization which is established by the management is called as internal control. Then what is internal check? It is the arrangement of accounting work where one person control will be in the hands of some other person. That is known as what? Internal check. Then what is internal audit? That is verifying the books of account inside the organization. That is continuous review of records by staff appointed for the purpose is called as internal audit. And the next one is scope of internal control is very wide because it includes both internal check as well as internal audit. Whereas the scope of internal check is less, whereas the scope of internal audit is more than internal check but less than internal control. It is medium. And the next one is the objective is to safeguard the asset of the enterprise. That is internal control. The main objective of internal control is to safeguard the asset of the enterprise, whereas internal check is to locate the errors as well as frauds. So what is the main objective of internal check? In order to locate the errors as well as frauds, whereas the main objective of internal audit is that the system of internal control and internal check in operation are effective. So, in order to check the effectiveness of internal check as well as internal control, so this internal audit is conducted. There is no separate staff for internal control. So, it is not done by a separate staff. In case of internal check also, there is no separate staff for internal check. But what about internal audit? So, it has to be conducted by a specifically appointed for the purpose of internal auditor. So, here a specified person is being appointed who is known as internal auditor. Next difference is that internal control is exercised when the work of employees is in progress. So, simultaneously, so if the workers are working simultaneously, this internal control will be made. But in case of internal check, so when the work of the employee is in progress. So, here also under internal check, so simultaneously it is being conducted. Whereas in internal audit, so it is completed. So, here it is undertaken by the worker after the work has been completed. So, here under internal control and internal check, it will be conducted during the process of working, whereas internal audit is conducted after the commencement of work. Next, any organization can adopt internal control. So, there is no specific that only this type of organization have to adopt internal control. Any type of organization can adopt internal control. What about internal check? Here also any organization can take this internal check. But internal audit, it depends upon the organization. Those who want, they can go for internal audit. So, this is the difference between internal check, internal control as well as internal audit. So, in your examination, they might ask for 10 marks. That is difference between internal control or internal check. That is among any two, they can ask for 10 marks. Now, we shall see audit of cooperative society. So, we have learnt about audit of different types of organization. So, there are various types of organizations like sole trading concern, partnership firm, joint stock company, cooperative societies, hotels, hospitals, educational institutions. So, how this audit is being conducted in cooperative societies? So, the cooperative societies are established under the Cooperative Societies Act of 1912. So, this you know, right? So, here also there is a particular law for maintaining or undertaking these cooperative societies, which is that law, that is Cooperative Societies Act of 1912. The accounts of cooperative institutions are generally audited by the staff of cooperative department. Now, who will audit the cooperative society? That is staff of cooperative department itself, they are going to audit the cooperative society. However, in other cases, practicing chartered accountant may be invited to do the work. Suppose there is no sufficient person in order to audit the auditing work of a cooperative society. In such situation, practicing chartered accountant may be called in order to audit the cooperative society. Such an auditor will be appointed by the registrar of cooperative society. Now, who will appoint the outsider auditor? That is registrar of cooperative society. Now, let us see how the auditing has to be conducted in cooperative society. The auditor has to go through the rules and regulations of the society and see how they are being followed by it. So, first the auditor has to see what are the rules and regulations which are followed in cooperative society and to what extent they are being followed. He should examine the capital structure of the society and find the number of its members and their shareholding. So, he should see what is the total capital and how many number of members are there, what is their shareholdings. He should examine the internal check system in operation in the society. So, whether the cooperative society are undertaking this system of internal check. So, that the auditor has to examine. He should ouch the receipt of cash. So, here also the ouching has to be conducted. So, here also in cooperative society they will maintain proper books of account. So, they have to make sure that each and every transaction has a proper ouchers or not. He should urge the receipt of interest and return of loans from the borrowers. So what is the amount which is being received from the members and what are the interest which is gained from that investment. So that is in the form of return of loans which is being provided from the borrowers. He should urge the loans guaranteed to the business by reference of the agreement. So what are the loans which are being provided to the cooperative society? So if any loan is being provided to that particular cooperative society, then the auditor has to examine the agreement of that. Other management and establishment expenses should also check by him. Suppose there is any expenses like establishment expenses or management expenses, so that also should be examined by the auditor. So if a cooperative society pays dividend to the members, it should be ascertained how much dividend is calculated and on what basis it has been calculated. Suppose if the cooperative society is giving dividend to its members, then what is the amount of dividend which is given to the members and on the basis of which they are going to calculate the dividend. So that has to be ascertained. Next, he should verify the assets and see that the stock is properly valued. Of course, like a trading concern, so here the cooperative societies will also have certain assets and the auditor has to verify the assets and stock also. He should specifically verify the cash in hand and investment in such a society. So what is the total cash in hand in cooperative society and what are the investment which are made in the cooperative society has to be properly examined. He should verify whether 25% of the profit is transferred to reserve and 10% is carried for welfare fund. So out of total profit, 25% has to be transferred to reserve and 10% has to be transferred to the welfare fund. So he has to properly examine that whether the cooperative society are following these rules or not. Next, he should ensure that the accounts of such a society are prepared in accordance with the provisions of Cooperative Societies Act of 1912. So here I have already told you, they also have to maintain a proper accounts in order to know what is a surplus as well as deficit. In such cases, here the auditor has to make sure that they are following the Cooperative Societies Act of 1912 while following or while maintaining their books of account. My dear students, in today's session, we had a revision from Unit 2 to Unit 6. See you all in my next session. Till then, take care. Thank you.